AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody. We go live on Saturdays and answer all the gun questions, but that intro is getting a little old, so I thought what I might do is try a new one, and I think I have it queued up right. No, I don't. I have it queued up right here. Yeah. I already don't like it. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it.
I said make it sound like a jingle to a 1970s TV comedy.
Oh, yeah. No, a variety show.
Yeah, maybe just the song part, though. Like, I thought it was going to say stuff. Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
That was it.
Dang. Yeah. Tonight we have
Exactly.
Don Knotts. That's our guest.
In the center square or whatever. All right. Well, we'll see who shows up. Like I said, I had some good luck with it here. Like, I was looking for music to play when I'm flying my drones or playing my drone videos.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Apple Music or something, right? It's just like jazzy sort of music you play, like elevator music, maybe.
Yeah, sounds like the ringtone on a Nokia.
Yeah, right. So I was like, oh, that's actually doing pretty good. And it would render it in like a minute, like 2 minutes. It was rendering it really fast. And then, anyway, so a couple of them did have songs and stuff. They kind of added music to it, or what would you call it, lyrics to it, and created a computer voice and sang them. So I thought, oh, well, let me see if I can do a jingle. Because this stuff, you never know. You play with it and it impresses me sometimes. Sometimes I'm unimpressed. But anyway. We talked last week, so we only have a week's worth of stuff. I'm trying to think if anything big happened this week. This week went by flying for me. I don't know about you. Like, this was a fast week for me. I messed up a couple of things and had to fix them, and that takes up a lot of time. Everything I had planned got shot to shit.
Yeah, I had the week went by like the week goes by. Then I had the police combat shoot last night, which is, pretty much a police qualification. That's what it is, old school police qual, but it has a competition. And then my gun started acting up during it. I didn't get a lot of rounds off because of stoppages in the time period I had. Like, I was in the first relay, had to pretty much call a mulligan because my front sight loosened up and turned 90 degrees on me. Like,
oh, okay.
At the 25, I'm like, all right, I'm pulling to the left for some reason. All right, you know what? Let's get everything under control. And I'm like, still not bang, zip. Okay, I shouldn't be seeing the side of the sight. So that was it. I was like, all right, I'm bouncing out of this relay, unload, show clear, go in the other room. And again, I had stoppages. I didn't see the sign on the wall that said I couldn't, clean my gun and stuff. I really didn't, but I cleaned it, oiled it, and put it back together. And a friend of mine had a Glock tool, so we tightened up the front sight. And I went back in and just had stoppage after failure to extract after failure to extract. And I'm stripping mags, and you have like fire 6, reload 6 in like 15 seconds or something like that. And I'm clearing a freaking malfunction, and I'm still staying in the fight, right? Oh, it's 2 rounds here left over, 2 rounds here left over. Yeah, my score was horrific. And then we decided to run our drills. We did what they call enrichment drills, which is like DPA, like a couple of those stages, just to shoot, move, and do something different after the other thing. I decided to go first, and every other shot I had to freaking strip the mag, rack the slide, reload it, And after the eighth time of doing that, because I wouldn't stop, right? I kept fighting through it. He was like, "All right, just call it quits, dude. You have a flintlock at this point." Sad part, that was my carry gun. So I went back in and get the gun I usually use, my pistol I usually use, which is a Ruger SR-22 for those events, and it ran perfectly again. So I went to Aberdeen Guns and Ammo, which is friends of mine that help volunteer at the diversity shoots, and they were there. Some of those guys, like four of them, were there last night, and they were like, "Come by the shop tomorrow. We'll see what's wrong." Took it apart and said, "Yeah, lots of parts need to be changed out in this." It's like, "Is this a Gen 2 Block 19?" I was like, "Yes." That was a 1990 or 91 Glock 19. There was a police trade-in, and I've ran it for the last decade in classes across the country,
And you don't do
including
armor type of preventive maintenance on it?
outside of cleaning it. No,
Oh, okay. Because that's
take
like
it.
when we're talking that kind of stuff, that's like your some of the springs mostly, but like some of the springs, but mainly the recoil spring, the big one underneath the
Hmm.
barrel, has about a 10,000 round lifespan. So they do it in rounds because there's no way to know. You know, somebody who never shoots it is going to probably not need it changed as often as someone who shoots it constantly. And they have a lifespan, and it's pretty long. 10,000 rounds is a long time, but it's really not. If you start thinking about somebody who's shooting 1,000 rounds a month for some reason, then it's not even a year. So,
Yeah,
you know, that might be though for 10 years. I'm sure it was probably getting worn, but that's just an indicator. Like there's a lot of different little parts that they'll recommend in any machine. Like, you know, parts are perishable for a reason, and they keep things pressed against. As you started to describe the problem, that's what you'll usually see, like that meltdown type of thing where the machine will start to fail. And then once it, like one part wears or breaks, you know, pressure gets pushed onto other parts, stuff jams up, you know, you start yanking on it differently. And it's sort of that, I don't think it's a
cascading.
slippery slope, a cascade, that perfect word, right?
Yep.
And,
So that's what happened.
but the thing is, it's your mindset, I guess I was going to say too, is like, you don't get that very often if your stuff's working all the time. So you just kind of almost take for granted that your stuff's going to work and you buy good stuff and yeah, it's going to work because I bought good stuff. But when stuff doesn't work for whatever reason, then being able to have the wherewithal to break that loop and go, nope, this isn't working. You know, pull another gun, do something else, get out of there, whatever. But in a game situation, I think you're kind of, that's a tough one because your mind is finish the game, finish the set, finish the round, finish the stage, whatever
Hmm.
it is, you know. And plus, you got people looking at you and stuff. So you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? Like you're not thinking this. Maybe some people jump right to like the gun is broken, but most of the
Hmm.
time it's, you know, what am I doing wrong? So you're not thinking analytically at like, oh, this could easily be a spring. Like you're thinking, you know, what did I do? Like, would I load this with 380? What the hell?
Yeah, dude. It was like, you know, because it was shoot and move. 2 rounds, one target while moving. Not don't stop. Keep your feet moving. You're going from right to left. Reload. 2 rounds, three different targets. Set up. One behind the wall. Whole thing, right? Just keep it moving. Boom, boom. It's not extracted. Strip the mag. Rack it a couple times. Slam the mag back in. Boom. Forward. Pow. Nothing. Damn. Shit. Strip. Chuck this mag. Grab another one. It might be the mag. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah,
and
I've kind
staying
of been in
focused
it
on a target.
a
What was
couple of
that?
times. I said a couple of times. I can remember the first time I took a Glock to, I think it was a Glock match, but whatever the match was, and I brought aftermarket mags. That's the first time I
Hmm.
like, I would call it like grinding into the ground, like you just. And then at the end, I'm like, somebody said, you should have just stopped, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I didn't think of that at the time, but yeah, after 2020 hindsight, definitely. I think maybe
Well, yeah.
once since then, but I don't shoot a lot of matches, nowhere near as much as you do. So I have fewer, you know, opportunities to do that. But yeah, I've had it happen enough, and I've seen it happen plenty of times. And they, you know, from that one time it happened to me, I'm like, oh, I can see, you know, I recognize it. Like, oh, this person doesn't realize that their sling is screwy, and they're fighting that, and they don't realize it.
So with me, I I mean, I haven't been lately because a lot of stuff's been going on with problems with the vehicle. So I wasn't doing extracurricular traveling, so I missed out. But yeah, once or twice a month, I would do a match. And for me, it's putting myself under pressure of a timer of friends who bust my chops. It's putting me under that pressure. Also, I'm doing whatever they say. What run they have, what shoot they are doing. So I don't get to pick my favorite thing. So to me, I look at it as fight your way through it as if this was a gunfight, not this. It's a competition. But what will you do if your life's on the line? Like act like that. Not all right. It's a game. I can stop and go, hey, what's going on with this? I'm like, no, fight through it until okay, this obviously isn't working. Let's call it quits. Because the guys were joking today when I was at the shop. They were like, "What would you do in a real gunfight?" I'm like, "Throw it at their head and pull out my knife because I can't outrun anybody at this point." I was like, it just turns into a knife fight and a tussle.
Well, the good news is too, they're probably like laughing. You know what I mean? Like, so they're
Yeah, right.
laughing, then running away while you jump at them.
It's like, oh, look at that guy. Hey, struggle is real, bro. Have a good one. And just walk off.
Yeah, let you have a pass. Like, you're obviously no threat to us, so we'll just keep going.
You ever get that thing working? But hey, anyway, so much for
That's
lots.
what training is good for. Figuring that kind of stuff out then versus, in a different situation where it would suck.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, for me, lesson learned: don't just clean your gun, like inspect it. Like I didn't see the small chip out of one part, and something else was a little messed up. And then because I was thinking about replacing the recoil spring just last week, like I was like, hey, I've never changed that in the time I had it, and I have no idea when it was with whatever police department if it was ever changed out. So I should order that part, but it's only one little part. I'm like, I mean, not as in it's only one little part, but it's like, okay, well, what else do I order? You know what I mean? Like, do I get something else? Do I get another
Sure.
part?
Yeah, because
And
you
now
can be wasting your time changing parts. You can be creating problems changing parts, but at the same time, you do want to change parts because, like I was saying before, like some of them are designed to wear out, and they just won't work. I mean, they're still going to be a spring, but if the spring is pushing it 80% of its whatever rating as opposed to 100% of its rating, that can make a difference in how that pin moves or how that lever happens or something, how the return happens strongly or not. And, depending on which spring we're talking about. And most of the time springs are like $7 to $12. So doing that kind of overhaul, I don't know about once a year. I guess, it's really hard to say when to do it because it's, everybody's different. And you can't really say round count either. Like there's no perfect situation. Round count sounds like a good way to go. But if you most people that are carrying, especially a CCW type of thing, you're carrying that thing. It's going through a lot of wear and tear, heat, cold, wet. What else? Like there's,
humid.
yeah, exactly. Like the bullets themselves are going through like basically trauma. Like the whole gun is going through stress, and that's just wearing it. Like not even using it ever. Now, if you're taking it out and using it once in a while, and training with your carry gun, which a lot of people do, again, now you're talking, normal stress again on top of all that other kind of, I don't know what to call that, like additional stress or like carry stress. And it's not like it's hurting the gun. It's just that it is putting strain and effort on it, keeping the slide. If your gun is sitting in a safe versus a gun sitting on your side, which one is constantly having a little bit of creep on that spring or holding things, there's a reason that springs hold things together or levers down and stuff. And that is necessary when, and I'm just thinking, just moving in a vehicle, moving, having velocity and stuff, all these forces apply onto the gun in little ways, and all that stuff incrementally adds up. And that's where it's worth, especially on a carry gun, taking that thing apart once in a while and evaluating it. Plus, metal is metal. It's not perfect. It's just a thing. And they pour metal or they cast metal and they grind metal, and there's potential for a little vacuum or hole or what do you call it? Like a little like a hole in Swiss cheese, a little hole to be in that metal somewhere. And,
Oh
all
yeah.
that wiggling or all that stress or all that heat and cold, just thermal
Yeah.
expansion or whatever it's called,
It,
eventually wears it to where enough of those little bubbles. And that's where what do you call that? Like a
inclusion.
material. But like you'd call that like a material failure, like not something
Oh
that
yeah,
you
yeah,
did
yeah,
to
yeah,
the gun, you weren't using it wrong, but it can just fail. And that's what I'm always concerned about. And that's what the inspections are all about, is you could be the perfect gun carrier, doing everything right. But if there's that thing working against you, that inherent flaw in the metal that just wasn't figured out before,
yeah.
it just hit, that's where you can get you. And it's Murphy's Law. And that's what it's worth, doing those inspections occasionally, or taking it to somebody who does that for a living. Because I went to a couple of armorers courses because I was interested, and I was working at a shop, and once in a while I need to use that skill. But the guy at the shop who did all the armoring or the armorer work, how many guns did he see to me? Like probably 12 to 1 he saw 12. And then he kept doing it. And every day I wasn't even there, he's seeing all the guns. So his experience versus mine is totally different. So I think there's something to be said for taking a gun to an armorer in armorer work versus gunsmith work. We say armorer not because we're trying to be cool, but like technically it's different, right? An armorer is somebody just changing out springs. I shouldn't say just, but they're changing out springs and they're changing out parts and things, but they're not creating a part. They're not evaluating, I'm going to
It's a
change a whole bunch about this gun. You could take that to a gunsmith, but
yeah.
that experience that an armorer is going to have is, again, like totally worth the $25 it might cost to, and the week it might take to leave it at the gun shop or something and have to pick it up later.
Yeah, it's
Most of the
called the
time.
armor. Yeah, it's called the Glock Armorers course for a reason. There's a difference between it. It's not called the Glock Gunsmithing course.
Yeah.
There's a difference in the two.
So we do a difference between like screwdrivers and hammers and then chisels and drills.
And
Gunsmiths,
files. Yeah.
gunsmiths use all that stuff. The armorers are just using the screwdrivers and the punches and the changing out thing most of the time. But again, it's like kind of like a nurse and a doctor. Like you go, oh, just a nurse because they didn't go to school and they're not a doctor. Who's standing there next to the doctor the whole time? So after you have any time
Hmm.
on the clock as a nurse, you basically know all the stuff the doctor's ever seen. He might have known more to start with, but practical experience, you'd be just as
Yeah,
happy having a nurse work on you after a career, versus a doctor.
and there's crossover. I mean, ain't one better than the other. It's just there's crossover in jobs. But yeah. Well, it also puts foot in my butt because I got a couple guns that I've been delaying, just putting up with the New Jersey bullcrap with that I have waiting at my FFL. So I have to do that, dance that stupid dance to get my Glock 34 out and my CZP-07. So it's not as if I don't have other carry guns. It's just I'm at the what do you call it? At the pleasure of the state of New Jersey when they get me my permission slip to own firearms I already own. Like I already purchased them and they're just waiting there in the building for me. Nothing's more frustrating than that. Yeah, as soon as they give you permission to go pick up the things you paid for already, and pass the background check for multiple times, multiple times, and let's not even talk about the security clearances for my regular job that I can't have felonies for. But
Well, we've had
hey,
a
first,
couple of people watching today, but it's a normal time, so I'm not sure if we're just not people. This happens a lot for people that answer questions like this when they're so good at it. Is that we've answered so many questions that oh, I've got this on the line. We've answered so
well,
there's nothing to be asked anymore.
I think tonight on the Locked, Cocked, and Unfiltered podcast, one of the things we might be talking about is selecting your carry gun. Because we were talking about the fact that the guys were busy and we missed last week because of a lot of things, and we don't have podcast in the can. So we're gonna do a podcast about current stuff, and then we might be able to squeeze another one in of something generic that we can just sit on. And I think it'll be something like that, choosing a carry gun or choosing a home defense gun or any of that. Just you have something in the can that doesn't require, a time. It's not time sensitive. So 2 months from now, when we're at SHOT Show, we can still post a show and not be really behind. A little behind baseball, right? I mean, is that it?
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Behind the scenes shit. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you want to be consistent with a podcast, but life happens.
All right, so we got a real question, and Agrizer saying nurses do it backwards. Matthew is asking opinion on the Sport 3 Smith & Wesson AR-15. So I know the Sport was where they removed the charging handle so they could do less machining and make it a more expensive, less expensive. What am I going to say? Less expensive option. But I don't know what the Sport 3 is.
Okay. My opinion on all Smith & Wesson firearms this time is, if there's another option, go with that, especially with the AR, because their quality control seems to be freaking weird now. It's hit or miss, and I'm talking about current stuff, not even like a time frame in the past. I'm talking about currently. Their QC is hit or miss, and their customer service is the same. As a friend, he had his Smith & Wesson Sport 2 because the Sport 3 I think came in on last year. In the last year, the Sport 2 he had a problem with, sent it back. They sent it to him, still a problem, sent it back. Then they really just stopped answering his questions. And I've heard more and more stories about quality control with Smith. Their revolvers, there have been problems with them. I haven't heard about the semi-automatic pistols, but I've heard about the ARs and I've heard about the revolvers. I mean, Smith sometimes seems to the point where Colt was back in the 80s and 90s, that you'd buy, I mean, even before that, sometimes you'd buy 1911 and send it to a gunsmith so they could fix everything that's wrong with it so you can actually have a gun that shoots well.
So my opinion is going to be based off of, hands off, because I don't own one or have one, or like I said, last time I even looked at a Smith was back in the when they first came out with the M&P 15s, really, and then the sports kind of were like maybe a couple years later. But anyway, so it's been quite a while. I don't have a problem with Smith personally. I've never had any issues with them. I know they ran pretty decent for people back in the day. However, like I say, I don't work at a shop anymore. So Tony's going to know more about their recent, whatever you call that, their ability to get things out. I was going to say, though, it does look like it does have a charging handle, and it looks like there's a zillion options, and they're all like around the 800-ish. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it or not. So that puts it at the, it's not the bottom bargain basement, but it's certainly not the high end or anything. So I would say, just in the getting what you pay for, I wouldn't expect top quality out of something that's mid price, and I wouldn't expect something garbage out of the mid price either. And based on back in the day, I mean, Smith & Wesson's just a giant company, so they are able to make, and they're a good company, like they make good machines or what. So they should be able to do it. That being said, if they got good crew, or if they got good, whatever that's called, like in a company to make that happen, I'm sure that kind of wavers. But then Matthew said, thanks, I'll save. I don't know, save it for the Daniel defense, maybe he's saying?
Yeah, save up for Daniel defense. There's certain brands, right, that you go, hey, they make a good product, but then when you start bumping into stuff that they're not making a good product, or more and more, I go in more gun stores than most people. more things than some, but it could be this all good stuff. You know what I mean? It's just I have what is it? It's how do you put it? Dang, I know there's a saying. If somebody does a good job, you tell 4 people, but if somebody does a horrible job, you tell 100 people. Like it could be that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Oh, you're a gun guy. My Smith and Wesson sucked. Oh, hey, yeah, you're a gun guy. And then it's just I keep getting hit with that. I know when I handled like the Smith and Wesson, that bullpup shotgun they put out that nobody remembers and you don't even see videos on, it felt like garbage. And then when you hear about things and you go follow other YouTubers that actually shoot the guns, and they're saying, "Hey, Smith and Wesson quality control is dropped because I had to send this back to Smith," and you got multiple stories of that. It's like, yeah, dudes, what's going on? I mean, it's like Colts. Their build quality and their quality control is weird now, and other companies are stepping in. So when you're talking about an AR-15, I'm like, okay, how much money do you want to spend? And let's start looking at other things in that price range of 8 to 9, even to 1,000. Then you're looking at things like BCM. And truthfully, if you just want one-stop shop and buy a complete firearm, I get it. But you save 11% off the bat if you buy an upper and a lower separately. You save the 11% excise tax. So you can buy a lower that has a lot of the things you want, and individual can change the parts out in the lower if you don't like something, and then get an upper. You got that much more money to spend on it. You got another 11% to spend on a good upper, because the lower is going to be pretty generic. If you're looking at a sports too, it's not like you're getting an ambi safety or ambi controls like ambi mag release, or you know what I mean, bolt hold open, ambi bolt hold open. None of that's going to be on that lower anyway.
Well, I don't know Matthew where he's at with like an AR purchase. What this one's for? If it's his first or seventh, right? Like where this one's about.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, because these are very adaptable and modular guns, so yeah, they can kind of serve a lot of purposes. Obviously, probably more than any other gun out there. But I guess I was going to say, since we're talking
Because
about that, I think the concept of buying one off the shelf versus buying the parts or components and assembling them, like you just mentioned, without going into repeating everything you just said, that's a good point to bring up. And if you're beyond, like maybe with your first gun, buy it off the shelf, right? Maybe your first couple, maybe the first gun of each platform, I should say. Like maybe buy one off the shelf, maybe. But once you're at all comfortable and competent with taking them apart, understanding them, the problem with buying one off the shelf is, I think what you're kind of saying too, Tony, is that like you could buy proprietary stuff and you don't know it, or you don't realize the implications of that. And let's say you buy some goofy lower. Let's say you buy one of them polymer lowers that existed for a while. Like a couple of companies were making polymer lowers, and they may have only worked with their upper. And without realizing it, you bought their complete gun. You go 6 months later to go, oh, I'm going to follow my friend or trends or whatever and buy a different upper for this thing, different caliber, different size, whatever, right? Whole point of an AR. So you can start doing that. Then you realize, oh, the lower I bought means I have to only stick with this company, or maybe just by the way it is. Like I really can't change anything on it. That would be the worst case scenario. So that's like I think one of the mud puddles you can fall into or something. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but then you end up buying a whole new gun. So now you're definitely having to wait until you can invest in a whole nother one, or wait until it's necessary to have a whole nother one. Hey, Mr. Knives is out there. Welcome.
yeah, I
But I
mean,
think, oh, go ahead.
no, I know I was blessed with my first, because my friend group had ARs already, and I was blessed with having that knowledge. So funny thing is, I did buy a polymer lower. I bought an all polymer lower from G-Wax Armory because it was during the Obama 2012 gun scare nothing was around, so I was able to snatch that up because that was all that was available. And we built that up, and then I got an upper from PSA that didn't have a charging handle, didn't have a bolt carrier group, but it only cost like 200, but it had 416 stainless barrel, and those parts were good. Then, I mean, I pieced the gun together. There was no emergency. A charging handle and a bolt carrier group. Put it all together. I probably spent $500 total, and I've been running that since 2012. And I'm talking about classes, diversity shoots, everything, because I was able to piece it together with someone that was knowledgeable. And I've since retired the G-Wax Armory lower because they no longer make it, so there's no reason to, mess with it. And I was blessed to have somebody around that could guide me into not garbage rods. Because PSA was different then. I think they got so big now that they put out a lot of products, and I don't know if their quality control has changed or it's the fact that just the numbers went up and the numbers game changed. If you put out, I'll make up a number, 1% bad or 1% problematic uppers and lowers when you're selling 10,000 a year, that number isn't big. But if you're selling 100,000 a year, well, now the number's bigger, of bad guns, parts, and all of that. And it's like, oh, their stuff is falling off. Nah, just more people are using it, and it's just the numbers game. It's just the odds.
Yeah.
Of you getting a bad part has gone up because they moved so many.
And it's just there's so many factors there. But going back to I guess sticking here for a second, there's so many factors there because not only, like you're saying, let's say, and it's all about quality control. Like literally, that's one of the things that I'll look at when I'm just evaluating a new company that comes to the scene. Now, no company that I know of can do 100% every gun we look. Well, little tiny companies that do 100 guns can look at every single gun. But as soon as they are doing a bunch of guns, then they have to start looking at batches. Like, well, we do a batch of 12 and we test 6 of them. Nobody does that even, but we do a batch of 12 and we test 3 of them. And they come up with some system to make, randomly out of the 3, so that if they're concerned about an employee or a process or even a new material or part, whatever the process, whatever it is they're doing the quality for, they'll do some kind of random test. And there's companies, there's like whole systems that will lay out the requirements so that some of the stuff isn't just random. Some of the stuff is like done intentionally or like at a level that it's all recorded and monitored, I guess. But anyway, these companies that are doing quality assurance or whatever their systems are, they're only doing some number. Like I say, nobody has the time and the time, really, the money or the time to spend on every single gun. So you get to some of them where they'll do more testing on all the guns, and then the specific testing, the quality testing on the samples of the batches, can be more consistent or whatever. But anyhow, all I'm getting at, I guess, is that there's going to be some number of guns that get through past them. It's just a matter of the way it is, because these are machines and metal and all other issues. Plus, you get things that happen in shipping, and then you get people who are just bad players who have a bad one and put it back into the mix as a good one. Like, that kind of stuff does happen, or can happen, I guess. It can happen intentionally or unintentionally. So anyway, you get these bad guns getting out there that are going to happen. And this is the same with bad power drills and bad tennis rackets, I'm sure, right? But nowadays, where back in the day, it would have been, okay, bad gun goes out. 10 bad guns go out for every 1,000 or whatever the numbers are. And that just happens. Some of those guns are just sitting in a gun shop somewhere. No one will ever know that they're bad. And there's no way to know, so that's random, right? But then some of them are going out to people and they're experiencing them, or they're never going to experience them, whatever that happens. But nowadays, how many of those people are going to have a camera and have a way to get online and bitch about it? And that's, I guess, long story to say that part of it, right? Like, even if back in the day 100 of them still went out, and today 100 of them still go out, just that 75 of those people are pissed about it and they have a camera.
Yep. And then you have the dog pile that happens in the comment section, the Me Tooism. Or, I mean, let's be fair. maybe they're 100% right. It's Me Too, and becomes that thing of I want to commiserate with someone whose product sucked too, and you're like, man, dude, this guy said he had something bad, and now there's 8 people in the comment section, so this product must be garbage. And it's like, yeah, but those same 8 people in everyone's comment section, anytime that product is reviewed, going, this thing sucks, mine broke.
Or if you went into Team Blue's comment section and asked about Team Red, they're all going to say Team Red sucks unanimously. But you know what I mean? Like, you go to
100%.
the chat room and it's going to be the other way. But that's a factor with
And
anything. Again, we just wake up to the world of like options. Like that's going to be like with cars and computers, right? Everything.
So and this is why, to me, it's important to have actual honest reviewers that sample product and aren't just shills or taking money and trying to seem like they do. Because when I want to spend my money and I'm looking for a heads up, not confirmation bias, you know what I mean? I want a heads up before I buy the product, not be somebody that buys the product and then I just want to hear good things about it. I need someone who has honest reviews. And some of these guys are blatant shills, and some of them, it takes a little while for you to notice.
Well, I don't necessarily think everything has to be stress test. And there's stupid stress tests, and then there's like realistic stress tests, and then there's like adequate stress tests. Like all of those are valid, and all of them have a different like trend on the internet or whatever. What worked in 2012 ain't gonna work today. So some of this stuff that we remember having happened isn't ever gonna happen again. And that's something that took a while to figure out, like to get used to. But like FPS Russia, for example, dipshit gun person made gun people look stupid. Some people liked them, most people didn't know about them. But anytime somebody would clutch their pearls and complain back in the era there, it was because that guy was out trying to make money on the internet, and his influence, his ripples, right, like what he affected is going to be, again, some people were like, oh, that's excellent, I'm going to do the same thing, and they're probably still doing it. I can think of a couple of people who still exist that are trying to do the same kind of shit as him, but then others said, oh, because of him, I'm never going to do that. Like I know people who would never do anything like what that guy does. I'm probably in that boat, right? Like because of him, we know what we're never going to bother doing. Anyway, so there's that level. I'm going to get back to the guns thing. There's people that will only accept like an extreme test, like, oh, it hasn't gone through mud and water and blah, blah, blah. Then how can I know the gun's going to work for me? And then there's people that think that's silly and that I have no idea. Like, I really don't even try to keep track anymore. But for a while there, it was actually, that was never interesting. For a while there, it was frustrating to try to keep track of what people expected out of a review of a gun. And that's why I walked away from all that, like a long time ago, when it was just becoming like people were trying to address it. Because back in the beginning, it was all just magazines. Like before the internet, it was all just magazines. And that was, here's how long it is, here's how heavy it is, here's the metal it's made out of. Pretty much that was it, right? Because we weren't carrying them or doing anything. Now you get into like once the internet started, it was kind of like what holsters are available for it. Maybe where it was used or who's used it, where it was invented. Like we had more time and more ability to put a little bit more effort into it. But then it got really fast into what accessories can you get for it and that kind of thing. So I don't know where I'm going with all that, but I guess the idea is that the reviews themselves can be useful or not, I guess is the best way to describe it, right? Or the easiest way to put them in two sides. And some of them are going to be really close in the middle there, and between entertainment and usefulness. But I tend to discard all of them, not just the ones that are entertainment, because again, somebody might think this is the best review for purse carry or something that I just don't do, or ankle carry, or you know what I mean, like small of the back carry. Like I just don't care if it's a really good review on small of the back carry, because it's just not something I'm going to do, or a really good review on any other. I'm not trying to pick on something, I'm trying to think of something I don't do. But anyway, I think that's growing pain
Well,
of us
it's
being able to have the First Amendment, and everybody does and should have their hat in the game, or whatever they call it, right? The ability to we just have to get used to how to discriminate that, or how to understand it all.
100%. It's called being an educated consumer, but you have to get there somehow.
Right.
And for me, getting there was done partially in the years prior to the internet. Getting my education started back then, just like yours did. And it's like, all right, gun writers will tell you, what size it is, probably some backstory, and then they'd show you the 25-yard group or whatever, and that would be it. We shot it for whatever. Then the internet came about, and it went from also facts to more entertainment. So now we're gonna do mud tests and drive over it with a truck and drag it behind a vehicle and just corny stuff. And you have to discern. And I think one of them, and this is not a bang on Jaeger at all, when he did the high round count Glock, where he just dumped mag after mag after mag into a Glock 19. And the what you call it melted.
The frame melted.
And everybody was like, "Oh, we got it." Yeah. It was pretty cool actually. I watched that whole video.
Eric
But people concluded
fun to catch stuff on fire, just shooting it into the hill.
Jaeger done that, I think, before Eric. Either way,
Okay.
the point was people jumped on this bandwagon, and I'm not even saying Jaeger started it or anything like that, but they concluded, oh, I need a metal guide rod so mine won't melt. And it's like, well, how long do you think your handgun fight is going to be, bro? And how many extra
I did not kick him out. He was talking about 9mm, so I was getting close to kicking him out, but I think he dropped out. Oh, I thought he was talking about the frame melting, but the guide rod melting. Okay, now we're talking. So that was a concern for people. I think that was more of a before people could talk to each other as easy as we can now, and everybody was kind of figuring it all out for themselves. So everybody was at these different levels of experience, and Gawk came around with the recoil spring set, or what do they call that component? But the recoil springs are like a little set or whatever they are. Can't think of the word, but they're built together with a plastic recoil thing, and that was a concern for a bit. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I got home to play. I finally got in the house, plugged it in, and I freaking shut myself off. It's so my whole thing is you have to educate yourself as a firearms owner or as a customer to see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense for you. I was watching Mike from Gideon Optics, and Ian had him on at SHOT Show talking about Gideon and what they do. You know what I mean? And it's an affordable optics company. I know the owner, awesome guy. Um, but they know they have a price point, but their guns aren't. I mean, excuse me, their optics aren't up to aim point Trijicon toughness. And he was like, but neither am I. He's like, if you're going to use this as a home defense firearm, if you're going to use this as something to run classes with, this works great. He's ran classes with it, he's used it. But if you're going to jump out of a freaking C-130 at 30,000 feet, glide into enemy territory, land in the ocean, swim from the ocean to the land, and then conduct hostage rescue missions, yeah, this isn't the optic you want on your handgun. But up till that point, yes, it's a good optic. So that's what I'm seeing. You have to educate yourself on that. Does that make a difference to you? So when it comes to an AR, and not because that's what started this conversation, pick a price point that gives you a good middle ground, and then look in that price point for good stuff in that area. Again, $1,000 to $1,200 puts you in a really good spot for AR ownership without going to Daniel Defense prices, because you're also paying for that name, a percentage, but you're paying, I'm figuring about 20% for that name.
I just was looking, so because I don't know about the ones he was asking about the Sport 3, and then he talked about the other Sport ones. So I was just looking at the Smith site, like say they're around 800. Go to the Daniel Defense site, which I never look at, and went to the AR section, and you're talking 12, even into 2000s. But
Yep.
I didn't find anything under $1,000 except for parts, components, and things. But most of their stuff is significant. They do. I'm not going to complain. Like their stuff is fine. Like their stuff is not inadequate at all, but they definitely pay more for advertising than other people, and that gets that has to be included. You have to understand, like they look at how much race cars and stuff, like they're massively advertising like Smith and Wesson, but they're also at that level. But so going back to ARs, I agree with you. Let's go back to where the kind of conversation started. We went a couple of tangents there, but so we do. So if somebody wants to kind of pick up on one of them tangents, of course, feel free. But going back, just to reel it back into the AR part, I didn't want to. I already had 2 tangents there, but one of the main ones I was going to say is because we didn't know what Matthew's, where he was coming from when he asked the original question, our opinion on the new Smith and Wesson Sport. I mean, unless I'm wrong, I thought the whole part of sport model of Smith and Wesson ARs was that they were less expensive, so they were going to do less machining on them, so that they spent less time in the shop essentially getting built, and you just lost some things like the forward assist that we cared about anyway most of the time, and that's just a lot of extra time. Oh yeah, that was right, the dust cover, and like little things that you probably don't need if you're just taking it to the range and going shooting sport and stuff with it. So anyway, I guess what I was going to say is we kind of started with, if you buy the one off the wall, you're potentially have an issue, but you're definitely going to get just a gun. You're good to go. Like I think what Tony was saying was valid for sure. And the only thing I'd add there is I was going to say, if you figure you want to spend $1,500 on an AR, I don't think enough people look at it this way. Don't worry about the brand of the AR, but think about what you want it to. You basically, most people just want it to look like something. So whatever you want it to look like, or what you want it to do, what's it going to take to do that from an AR? Well, it's going to take a 16-inch barrel with, this on the front, or this on the top, or this on the side, or this on the back, or this underneath. Is basically right. That's going to have to. That's the stuff we're talking about. Like you're building a platform to put all that stuff on. So take your $1,500, figure out the pieces you're buying, and then start doing some subtraction. And from that 1,500, you take out the optic, you take out the stock, and you take out the rail or whatever the pieces that you're thinking about. Then you know how much you got left for an AR. Instead of most people are trying to buy the AR and then figure out what works in the budget. So that being said, that can give, if you're in the 800 range, or if you're in the 400 range, or if you're in the 1,000 range, by the time you know your whole budget and you section off parts for those other things. That being said, if this is your first gun, like I say, there's something to be said for just buying one off the shelf. But I guess if you're at all mechanically inclined, if you suspect you're going to buy more than one AR, for sure. Like if you think you're going to buy a couple of ARs, then I would highly recommend buying either what Tony was talking about, like components. I think, well, you kind of mentioned buying like a lower or an upper, but even if you just buy the actual lower receiver, like shell, and then a trigger set and all the other parts, you're going to need an up or a bulk carrier, because you're going to potentially put it together in a way that the parts don't fit together. But this is 2025. Like it's, unless you just went rogue and just randomly went on pick stuff off a shelf based on look or something, you're probably going to get your advice from people who are like, I liked this combo, or I put this and this and it worked great, right? So you're going to pick things that work. But the worst case scenario is you buy a bunch of stuff off of different shelves, you put it together and it doesn't work. Now you take it to an armorer, and that's what they do, is they figure out what's not working. It's usually some dwell or like weight of something. It's like something has to be weighted a little bit heavier because of the length of the barrel, or there's too much gas port or something. Like there's usually something little that they're used to looking at, and they tweak it. And now, change out your buffer with this buffer, or change out this gas port with that gas port or something. And now it runs fine. Most of the time though, with an AR, knock on wood, most of the time, you're going to buy stuff and it's going to just kind of assemble and work. But that's what I recommend, is buying it, not just to save the money Tony was talking about, but also because now you know the thing intimately, literally, because you've put it together the first time, like I don't want to say Frankenstein monster, but you have put it together for the first time, made it work, and now every other one you buy from that point on looks like a bunch of parts put together to you instead of a thing that is made up of parts. That makes sense?
Also, again, if it's your first one, second one, you're not too sure, you when you buy the whole gun, you have a warranty. You know what I mean? Like you have that factory warranty from most quality companies. So if something's wrong, you just send the firearm back, you know, and they'll take care of it because it's their thing. Right now, I just went on Primary Arms and checked out what they have because they have sales and sales are going on. And again, you find your price point and then you figure out what you want to drop your money on. And there are good brands out there, and then there are inexpensive brands. Understand that you get what you pay for. So buying the cheapest gun you can find might not be the best bet for somebody that got, getting their first firearm. But if you're getting your fifth and you've built like two or three of them and you're just seeing, hey, let's see what this 399 firearm will do, or even less, or see how cheaply can I put together an AR that runs. Well, you know what to look for. You know how to put it together, and then you do it. Like right now, for the price of what we were talking about, Smith and Wesson Sport 2. Again, I'm just scrolling. You can pick up things in that category, but it's like I don't know how good they are. But if you go up another $300, you get into the lower end BCM. I think Bravo Company, which has a really good reputation. You get into some of the Sons of Liberty stuff, which Mike is a solid dude when it comes. That's the owner. When it comes to building those, he is really into that. Every aspect of his gun working. So those are places to start when you're looking, but you got to go with your price point where you can afford. And there's no shame in that. Again, I built my first for probably less than $600 for the firearm itself. Not talking about the optics, and I did iron sights. Sorry, but iron sights work. I didn't have to worry about an optic because 10, 12 years ago, optics were more expensive, and either you had something you dropped 700 to $800 on, or you had something iffy around 250. Like that was it, kind of in the price ranges. And so I went with iron sights, and then prices went down, and I was able to get a hollow sun back in the day when they started coming out, and they were deemed. I mean, before everybody jumped on them, it was like, hey, this hollow sun is a good product, and it only cost me 250, but it was solid. And I've been running the same hollow sun red dot, I think a 407, uh, for a really long time. I think if you go back and look at some of my first diversity shoots, you'll actually see it on my dissipator. So, I mean, truthfully, I like this stuff. That's why I talk about this stuff. That's why I look into it. And for guys like Matthew, I'm like, I want to give you the best advice, um, because you might have to get it. You cleaned it, you took it to the range, you zeroed it, and then something effed up happened, and you have to use this gun, and it should work. I should give you good advice, not paid for advice. But AR is a really good choice and is easy to build on, especially when you get a mil spec if you're not too specific. Um, what in the early, what is it? Right after the assault weapon ban dropped. I mean, you also you had mil spec, but you also had commercial spec, and all of that could get mixed up. Oh, that's not going to work with that because that's that. And also, when you get into the AR-10 world, there is no mil spec AR-10.
There's no
There's
standard. There's just
yeah,
proprietary platforms that people will kind of follow or what. But There's a
Yep.
bunch of them. There's not just two. There's like a bunch anymore. But that's the development of the AR. The AR started with one company, then a couple, and then the platform, the popularity of the gun itself took off, and then even more people threw their hat into the ring. You kind of have to keep going back to popularity. I don't want to say popularity because like as trivial, but popularity, like if people were using it in matches, people were using it in the war, people were using it as a patrol rifle, people were using it as a hunting rifle. So it's as people discovered it and found how it excelled in these different things, or in what configuration it excelled in these different roles, I guess that's where its popularity would like keep coming back, or like surges in its popularity would happen. So anyway, somewhere in there, the 308 just never caught on. It's just there's other guns in 308, and AR shooters honestly are just not long range shooters. They're AR shooters. They're looking for a range rifle.
Well, what happened is the AR-10 came along and people sabotaged the AR-10 and lied their ass off to promote the M14. That got adopted. M14 turned out to be a crap show in Vietnam, and they got rid of it and they adopted the AR. And by the time they got through their teething, America was no longer interested in using a 308 as a battle rifle. So other things developed, other things happened, and we never really went back to the AR-10 as a American platform for general issue the troops. So it just never got there. So we had things like the SR-25. Well, that's not set up to be, that's a specialized whatever, and they cost a freaking gang of money. So when units did adopt it, it didn't become widespread with the overall military. So it's not like, dad brought back, oh, excuse me, great granddad brought back bolt actions because he had a, 1903 Springfield all the way up until the end of World War II. There were dudes still being issued that. So the bolt action was a thing, and guys shot ARs for the last 70 years, or excuse me, M16s for the last 70 years in American history. So yeah, it has a place. That 308 version, the AR-10, really doesn't have that same uh, legacy in the American mind, in the American military. So it just didn't really take off like that. And of course, it doesn't help that, like you said, they have different magazines, they have different uppers that don't go with different lowers. So there's no standardization, again, like there is with the AR or like there is with the Glock. You can see why those firearms are popular and have proliferated throughout till it just is what it is. I'm looking at the price of that Sport 3, and I'm looking at the price of a Colt AR-15 that's stripped down, so you have to put on the stock and the handguard, and it comes with an A2 grip, and that is actually about the same price as Smith& Wesson M&P Sport 3. So yeah, you purchase a handguard, put that on, put the stock on that you choose, and there you go. Get an optic. And you got a complete Colt AR. It's up
Yeah, I
to
got
you.
a Colt all day. Back in the day, they would hold their resale value, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure about anymore. It's like, just not because they're not good, but because I don't know what people are going to value going forward in the world.
Yeah, in private sales, I'm sure Colt holds their retail value more than depends on what your audience is, right? Or like who's checking it out.
Well,
Like if you
when there was only Colt and then Olympic or Olympia or Olympic or whatever they
yeah,
were, and then
yeah.
maybe Rock Island or somebody like, then Colt could kind of stand there going like, yeah, well, who's been there and done that? Like who's
Hmm.
everybody uses us, and then y'all are looking like us. That's it. Nowadays,
Yeah.
it's just not that world anymore. And well, for all the reasons we're saying, I think a lot of what we're talking about too is we've taken for granted the concept that very few people, in fact, I don't know anybody anymore that just has a gun. And then even if you say a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol, and another gun, whatever that might be, like 4 guns, that's not even, because once you've got 4, you're like, oh yeah, I want one for my friend, or I've bought this one, I don't like it, now I have 5, or a million other reasons why you're going to have more than 5. So I just don't think we live in a world where people just buy the one gun because it's like, I need a rifle, so I'm buying a Colt. They're buying a rifle because they want it to look like a carbine. Then they're buying a rifle because they want it to look like a, DMR. And then they want one to look like
Mm-hmm.
the one off of a movie. And at that point, you're not buying Colts anymore unless you really got money. You're buying whatever $300 lower you can buy
Yep.
because you want to build it up to look cool.
Yeah.
And the value there is like, well, I've got 6 ARs now. Sure, I value a Colt, but am I going to pay for a Colt? And that's where I'm wondering if, like I say, I don't think Colt's going anywhere. It's like still made out of good aluminum. They did all the work you could ever do to make a good gun, but I just don't know if people value that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause nobody needs that.
So
Really needs that out of a gun.
yeah, you can get other stuff. So truthfully, there hey, it's Colt or it's a copy. That's something Colt used to say. And now it's like, yeah, it's a copy of a Colt. I paid a lot less and I got just as good, if not better, of a firearm. No problem. It's not an insult. I'm good with that. Um,
I mean, I still
and I,
say Colts are better. It's just that, like I said, I'm saying I just don't know if people need the best out of a gun because, so you can do, let's say the best thing about a gun is you could do chin-ups off of it, and a cheap gun, it's going to bend. I mean, that's not the case, but,
yeah,
but who cares because nobody's doing chin-ups off it, I guess is what I'm really saying.
yeah,
But so the things that make a good gun the best gun, that's just, I can understand why people don't value that. Like, it is better. Like, they've done magnetic particle testing, for example, and
yep,
they've done quality assurance, so that gun's going to work. But if you got an 80% chance that this $200 version is going to work, then what do you care?
yeah. What do I care if my range gun doesn't stand up to saltwater test?
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't care.
exactly. You don't go to saltwater, you don't care, and that gun's never going to not see. I mean, it'll come out of its safe, for a week and maybe for a couple of hours, more often every couple of weekends. These guns are not. These are the pampered things that, compared to the guns that they, well, the life that they thought guns were going to live back in the old days are not what
Hmm.
they're building guns for now. Like, they know
Yeah.
guns
So
are going to go into a safe, and that's why they have the quality concerns or the quality control that they have nowadays, because they know. I mean, they absolutely know. Taurus, Colt, Ruger, Smith, everybody knows that if they sell 100 guns, 98 of them are going to go into a safe and maybe get their trigger pulled, and then 2 of them are going to get wailed on. So they only have to, you know what I mean? Like, they have pretty good odds. It's stacked in their favor that the gun is never going to get tested, stress tested. It's never going to get used hard. It's always going to be appreciated, even if it was not designed well and it was about to break. Like, no one would ever know. And I'm not saying they're that bad, but that it could be that bad, and no one would ever care because we're buying them because of what they look like and what they're like at the range or something. But
yeah.
I'm not trying
So
to be discouraging. I'm just saying, like, I think that's one of the factors of now compared to, when whoever Remington or somebody was making their guns one at a time, and they put, as much care as you could put into something. We're just not at that level anymore.
so yeah. So he's asking about different brands because he said whether he's a guard and a prepper or something like that, and I get it. Because you want to spend your money once for that main whatever. That's the way I looked at it. But I mean, ARs are a really good way to go for all around firearm that is so modular and customizable by the end user that it makes sense that's where you start with a long arm. And he was asking about Smith. Now he's asking about Ruger as a company. I think Ruger makes solid firearms, but when it comes to the ARs, they don't have the same reputation for their modern sporting rifles as they do for their freaking awesome revolvers, um, for their solid semi-autos. Even though finally they got around to making a semi-automatic firearm that's worthy of the reputation of Ruger revolvers and their earlier other firearms, because Ruger, dude, when it came to semi-automatic pistols, they would make them chunky with like bad triggers, and there were other things out there that weren't as big and operated a lot smoother. But now with the RXM, They have a Glock clone with that Ruger Tech and that Magpul innovation when it comes to, yeah, they've made a good plastic, but they're also going to put other stuff out. I don't think you can really go wrong with a RXM or any of their revolver line. I think that's good. You know, they're freaking 1022s. They sold since 1965. They sold over 10 million 1022s. That thing is prolific. Their semi-automatic, their 1911s. Eh, they're a good solid base gun. I've heard over and over from others, like to work on. Like you get this gun, and there's some tweaking you can do to make it like a good shooter. Um, T-Sauce is another one. If you're looking at 1911s at a price point right now, it's $239 for one on PSA this weekend. It's all black freaking M1911, like the Cerakoted black or whatever. Um, that's a heck of a deal, and they have no mem parts, unlike Ruger, which has got mem parts and cast parts in it. So, but a lot of people don't know that name. But I feel T-Sauce is where Canik was a decade ago. Like now, people know the name Canik, and you're paying almost Glock prices, if not more, for some of their product line. But they've built that over the years, and I think T-Sauce is on that come up story right now when it comes to semi-automatic handguns. Even their Military Armament Corporation, which is another company under SDS Imports, which owns T-Sauce, they're making quality 1911s, and they make MP5 clones and Benelli clones. And I've heard nothing but good things about them for the last year. Like more and more YouTubers are buying it because they were at a lower price point, and small YouTube gun tubers bought it and they ran it and they were like, "This is solid," and then other people started picking up on it. I shot their semi-automatic pistols. I've shot their semi-automatic shotguns at range days. And then I talked to people who are actually in the industry that are using it. One of the guys over at Gideon, he purchased them outright, their PX9 semi-automatic pistol, run thousands of rounds through it, and he's using it for testing for Gideon optics. So when you see some of the photos on Gideon, those are actually the employees' firearms that they're using testing their optics on it. And one of them is a TSOS PX9, and he also has TSOS Night Stalker 1911 and 9mm. And I was shooting that. I shot it at GunCon this summer, and I fired it at Goals at their range day 2 years in a row. And I'm shooting it out to 70, 80 yards and hitting steel with it. So there's companies out there that you can get TSOS, you can get into the 1911 game, as it were, for under $300. Up to, I think their highest one is like 1,200 for the 10mm full size with fully adjusted sights, and that's the MSRP. You'll probably get it for less than that. So that seems to be one of the games. If you really want to get into that 1911 thing, TSOS seems to be the way to go. If you have some problem with the country of origin, then that's not for you. If you want American-made company, again, Ruger, solid pistols. Smith and Wesson 1911s. I got a friend of mine, and it's one of my favorite guns to shoot. He has one that's a Wiley Clapp version. I think it's like scandium framed or something like that, in 45 ACP. Fun gun, but whew, I think it's like $1,500, $1,600. But it's an American company, Smith and Wesson. I haven't heard horrible things about that, but their performance center guns supposedly are made at another level, but I think they've watered that down too. That it ain't what it used to be, which sucks. Because I don't mind paying more if you're getting more, but if all I'm getting is that, a name on the side, that kind of blows.
I met Wiley Clapp. You ever met him?
No, never met him. No, never met him.
I didn't know who he was. I might have known the name from just like, oh, that's a gun guy, like a writer or something, but I didn't know who he was. Or I wasn't a fan or anything. I mean, I didn't hate him or nothing. I just didn't know who he was. So I can't remember. I'm trying to think now when it was. It might have been like Florida when I went to Florida for SHOT Show that I met him. And whenever he came out with some revolver, I think I think he came out with a revolver, and it was at the Colt booth. And I'm doing my thing, trying to be a YouTube reviewer at SHOT Show, which was new because if this was Florida, hold on. If this was Florida, this was 2009 or maybe 2007. So it was a while ago, and YouTube was not on everybody's mind. So going to SHOT Show, you'd have to still explain what you were doing back then with cameras and stuff. But I think I was explaining that to him, and he was like, huh. He kind of looked at me like, huh, like electronic reporters, huh? Like, like the electronic stuff. But the thing is, I didn't know who the hell he was. So I was like, can you tell me about this gun? And he's like, yeah, this is the Wiley Clap, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, oh, you're Wiley Clap, and you're telling me about your gun. Oh, now I'm an actual reporter. And I think he figured out that I was figuring it out. So he was nice enough. He was gracious, I guess you could say, because he was super older than me, and I was younger then. But obviously didn't know, what I mean? I didn't embarrass myself, I don't think, but I also didn't understand what was happening until it was happening, type of thing. Anyway, so he tells me about the gun, and I kind of about my business. And whenever I told my friends back home, they're like, oh, we know who he is because we read whatever it was, Guns and Ammo or whatever magazine he wrote. I think he wrote for magazines and he wrote books and stuff. So they knew who he was. And they thought it was like kind of interesting that I got him to tell me about his gun or whatever. But he was standing there. It's not like I arranged it or anything. But then whatever it was, the next year, I seen him again. Or it might not have been the next year, but the next time he came out with an edition of a gun, I went up and the same thing kind of happened, except now I know who he was, and it was cooler. And anyway, so that was I met him twice, and that was my experience with Wiley Clap. He was a nice guy.
That's
gracious,
cool.
like I say, letting me be an idiot.
Hey, look, nobody's. I mean, I'm still at the point I find it weird that people recognize me, but I can't imagine, being somebody not only at the top of an industry as a writer, but like have your own line of firearms. Because I know Ruger had Wiley Clap versions stuff too, because they got that, I think, SP 101 Wiley Clap version. So yeah, I mean, you, your ego can't be to the point. How dare you? You can't pull a Larry Vickers at the Ruger booth talking about, what do you mean you don't know who I am? I'm Larry Vickers. It's like, no, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. What was that story?
Oh, dude, I think that was 2016 SHOT Show. He went to the Ruger booth and pretty much wanted to kind of shut down the area so they could talk about whatever new Ruger came out. And they were like, yeah, no. We're not shutting it down so you can film a segment. You can film a segment like everyone else is. Well, I'm Larry Vickers. And they were like, yeah, yeah. And they escorted him out of their booth. And that just became a big thing. It hit like, wildfire. And they were like, yo, Larry Vickers got thrown out.
Damn.
thrown out of the Ruger booth. Yeah, dude. It's like, gosh, calm down. And I understand it. It's a little annoying. I mean, you've been to SHOT enough. You see some of the bigger channels trying to like sequester over in a corner, and it's like, bro, this is not a studio. This is SHOT. There's tons of us here. Yeah, I understand not walking through your SHOT, but get over yourself. Hey, we're at SHOT. It's really busy here, but I'm gonna try to like cordon off a section and be upset if people walk through.
Film masterpieces, yeah, and
Yeah,
expect
yeah.
people who are like minding their business at a whatever it costs now, let's say $25,000 booth for the couple of days, to have them like stop everything and not have other people come up and look at it, but instead, do something I could have done, like that everybody else is doing in moments, but it's going to take me half an hour or longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, you want to break down, you're taking up a salesperson, and these salespeople are there because this is where they move their guns for the entire year across the planet. They're buyers from other countries, militaries, other countries' sporting goods, our country's sporting goods. Yeah, just shut up, put a lab mic on somebody, ask pertinent questions, and do good B-roll.
That's what you could do. Tape it and then edit your B-roll with voiceover. That's what I done did. Um, we were talking about it one day. It's like if you could go with one fire, you could only purchase your firearms from one firearm manufacturer. Rifle, pistol, shotgun, bolt. Who would you go with if you could only get them from one manufacturer? Who would you be your go-to manufacturer?
Probably Ruger or Smith, maybe one of those two.
Yeah, it gets down to Ruger, Smith, FN, or CZ. I'll go with CZ. Especially now, I'll go with CZ over all of those because CZ also owns Colt.
Well, now the
Also,
Colt, that's a pretty good deal, yeah.
also you can get in with Beretta because again, they own multiple companies. So it's like it used to be a crazy thing because, like you said, you can pretty much only go with two companies, but now there are a plethora, a significant number of companies. Because CZ
Well, if you pick Taurus, you'd have a lot of guns too.
Taurus will get you Taurus and Heritage Arms. Does Taurus even make long arms?
I thought they did. Maybe not here, but I mean, they seem like a Ruger to me. Like they make a lot of guns.
I don't know.
Whatever, Brazil or wherever they are.
Because I look at FN. FN has bolt actions. FN has semi-automatic shotguns. FN has, of course, handguns that they obviously don't give a damn about, or at least you couldn't tell from their advertising budget, their marketing budget. And of course, you got Beretta, which has Benelli, which has Sacco. I think Benelli, Sacco, Beretta, a part of Ruger. What is it? 7% of Ruger. Benelli just bought. I mean, Beretta just bought. CZ has Colt, Dan Weston, and CZ. That's a hell of a catalog. And Smith doesn't have shotguns. They have that one shotgun that I know of.
Well, they've made them historically, so they can. They don't really offer a lot.
I love it. DM Foss. Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah, smart move.
Or who makes the BM2?
The who?
M2.
The Madus?
Yeah. It's like Coleman or something. It's like a company that makes a bunch of stuff.
Oh, really? Okay, because I don't know.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, right. There's a lot
or something like that.
That's just funny though. There are a lot of companies out there, man. I say it often that we live in the golden age, and people laugh, and I totally get it. But it's like for civilian firearms ownership, we have way more options now with companies and types of firearms than ever before.
General Dynamics.
Maybe. Hold on. I don't know. It's a toss up. I think there's more than one golden age in things if it goes on long enough.
I'm thinking golden ages because there was like a time when it was freer, like before 34, you could just go do what you want. But what technologically existed was less. So
exactly
more with less, yeah.
Because I'm thinking, 1929 or 1920, you could pull up to the Bannerman warehouse and leave with a belt fed, a couple artillery pieces. You know what I mean? Hell of a road trip, mama. Dropped 10 grand at Bannerman Castle. And I came down with like half of the army's worth of freaking stuff. But yeah, I think there's been a few golden ages, maybe call it the Gilded Age, right?
Well, and I think that I've been thinking more and more about this from different angles. And maybe it's because I'm old or just seeing things and it's explaining some shit that's opening doors to explain some other shit that I never paid attention to because you're young, you're just growing up, and you're not paying attention. But a lot of it depends on what, we could have the coolest thing ever, but people aren't interested at that time. don't know what to
Mhm.
call that. Like, but like I'm gonna call it the trend or the fad. Like, and if the trend or the fad isn't cycle or whatever the trend cycle isn't hooked up with it, like you know what would be a good example is that 10 millimeter from
Mhm.
uh
Colt Delta Elite.
no, sorry, I can't think of his name right now. The
Oh,
guy,
Bren 10.
yeah, the Brent 10. Thank you.
Yep.
Whenever that first came out, if that would have come out in like 2014 or something, like it would have been the most successful gun ever made. You know what I mean? Like if we would have had the mindset of 2014 when that gun came out in the 80s, but it came out before concealed carry and before anybody was, you know, interested in that kind of stuff, and before 10 millimeter was on its third resurrection of a thing. So, it was on its
Mm,
first or something.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think 10. Okay. Here's my thought process on that. We needed 10 millimeter. We needed 10 millimeter to come out when it did to be at where it's at right now, because I think it had to come out then and fail and then and be a cult thing, a cult, like you part of the 10 millimeter cult, and then it rises up again and it goes away, fades a little, and now it's back. I think all of that had to happen to be where it is, except it started in 2014.
I hear what you're saying. I think so. Like you couldn't get this attitude of gun owner from nowadays and put it back then because you needed the ramp up or you needed the
Yeah,
yeah. I
if you
know.
didn't, if you didn't have the Miami shootout,
Mhm.
the debate would still be 9 millimeter versus 45, because there was no 40, there was no 10, there was not even that discussion of 9 not being able to perform because you didn't have the shootout.
And nobody pays
Uh,
attention, but the 45-9 had less to do with stopping power than like, do you want an American gun or a gun from Europe? But that's a
mhm.
whole other tangent. But go ahead.
Well, and also the capacity thing happened, right? Because we're talking 86, and it was a changeover from law
Well, that's
enforcement
when it
going.
changed. Is when it was like, oh, it isn't just our guns or their guns.
Yeah,
They hold a lot more bullets, and maybe that matters. And here's why. Yeah.
yeah. So it's all predicated on a bunch of things, but man, it's fun mental exercise. Like what happened is the Miami shootout never happened. Where would we be with firearms development? So the 40 would have never existed. It would still been between 45 and 9 millimeter. And
Would Glock have ever been able to take the market it did if people weren't
no,
questioning revolvers?
if people weren't questioning revolvers, and then Glock came over from Germany as this plastic gun in the 1980s,
They would have
no,
just gone to like a bigger, would be have to, oh, well, 357 is the next logical conclusion. And then like some bigger, gun than that in a revolver, which is, is the next logical 44 Magnum, I guess. Next logical
oh
conclusion.
no, 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 41
Right.
Magnum might have freaking became something then, because it's between the 357 and the 44,
But they
and
left the whole platform because of capacity, because of that one
yep,
situation.
yeah.
And revolvers
So
kind of got a black eye also.
yeah, after the Northern California, was it the shootout at the diner? Oh, I can't even think of the name where the cops died.
Wherever he
Uh,
put the brass in his pocket or whatever.
yeah, yeah, which really didn't happen. But yeah, that shootout, that was one of the things that got him going to semi-automatics. Like all of this stuff, where we are today, actually just didn't just happen. It happened for reasons. It's really funny because talking about it, being at the age we are, watching things happen during our lifetime and how we got here, and then listening to younger people talk about firearms. Like, why do we even have a 40 Smith and Wesson anyway? It's a dumb cartridge, and it's like, well, it came about for a specific reason. And it's like, well, why didn't we just stick with 10? Because they've downloaded 10 millimeter to 40 Smith and Wesson velocities at this point to get you to buy the more expensive 10 mil, and they stopped producing a 40 Smith and Wesson in many handguns outside of IDPA, competition shooting. Most people don't have it, and many police departments are getting rid of it and going to the cheaper 9. But the reason we have 40 is because that 10 was hot when it came out. What is it, 180 grain round, a projectile moving at 1,400 feet per second? That was hot. That was hitting the 700 foot-pounds. That was twice the energy of a 9 and almost twice the energy of a 45 ACP. That baby was hot. And you'd have to actually buy today Underwood, Double Tap, or Buffalo Bore to get 10 that hot. Like you have to go to a boutique round, as they call those companies now, to get hot 10 millimeter. Most people can't take it. Heck, most guns can't take it. And that is why I don't turn my nose up at 40 Smith & Wesson, because you can get hot 40 Smith & Wesson loads that outperform all 9s and many 45s, and you still have more capacity. It's snappy. Grow up. It's about technique, really.
Well, I get it though. You can pick up some guns and just kind of use them, and some guns that are like they snappy or what, like can be more pain in the ass to shoot well.
Well, I
But
listen to
you
other
shoot
people.
like 10, 15 rounds, and you're probably going to be okay, unless you're just not paying any attention. Like most people get better when they
So
hold on to something. So
this is what I hear a lot of, though. People, oh, it's snappy, it's this, it's that, and it's usually the people that say it's snappy that are repeating things they heard, or they haven't shot guns much regardless. The reason I'm saying it is this. When I'm talking to people at my job who we just changed over from 40 Smith & Wesson to 9 millimeter in the last couple of years. So most of the people qualified on a 40 Smith & Wesson US HK USP. And I'm just asking because they know I'm the gun guy, and I'm talking to ladies now. So what'd you think about the service pistol that we had? Oh, it was all right. I liked it. This one has a better. I like pulling the trigger on this one better. We have a Smith & Wesson M&P 1.0 first gen, and they were like, "Yeah, I like the trigger on this better than I like the USP." You know what none of them say? Nothing about recoil. And these are smaller lady, women of all sizes, even some of the dudes. Very rarely do I have any of them go, "Oh, it's snappy," or "Oh, it's hard to control." So these are people that actually aren't gun people, don't watch gun videos, and are just having a conversation and entertaining the gun guy when he's asking questions. So I think a lot of this, oh, it's snappy and hard to control, it's a mental thing coming from people who are into guns and repeating stuff.
yep, I think I agree. I mean, there is a difference. I'm not saying
Yes.
that there is a
Yeah.
difference, but
Yes, of course.
it's not that big a difference compared to like. Well, and also, you know what I think it could be too. Here's what I'm going to say. There's a difference when you don't have a lot to compare it to. Maybe that's the way to say it. Because I was going to say, I was about to say, there's the same differences there is between going from like 38 to 357 or from 357 to 44. Maybe not exactly the same because they are like a little twistier. It is a little snappier, but that's more of like the gun usually like bore axis or something dumb like just the way those guns are designed versus like a 357. But that's what I was getting at, is that unless somebody is, and this isn't just any generation, because this is anybody who just, I bought my gun, I'm satisfied, or I have a set of friends and I shot their guns, I'm satisfied. But other people are like, well, I can take, like a lot of ranges will do this. I can take 70, well, it used to be $7. It's probably not $7 anymore. I could take $20 or whatever it is to rent a gun, and I can shoot. I don't know how much it is to rent a gun anymore. But
65. Try 65.
Ouch.
And then you'd have to buy the ammo. Yeah.
Well, you always got to buy the ammo. But back in the day, it's been a while since I rented guns, I guess. But back in the day, you'd rent one, and then it would, you could go bang, 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 and then like go, you know what, I'm going to try the other model, and then go bang, 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 come back, shoot the other model. And you could sit there all day shooting them. And we did that at every single shop until where like when a shop had enough new guns, we would go back and shoot a bunch of them because we could do that. And I'm pretty sure you can do that at a lot of ranges. So that's something to do. Or just go hang out with people, go to a class. That's another option, and it's something that I guess doesn't get talked about enough. When you go to a class, most of it, just like being at school or something, when you're at class, and you're doing your lessons or whatever drills and shit, yeah, okay. But then lunch happens, and you could say to the instructor might say, you can use this time to go practice, or we can use the range until it gets dark or something. and then people go out there and shoot each other shit, or oh, I wanted to shoot that, can I try it? So you can create opportunities, look for and create opportunities. Same thing at a match, class match, wherever there's a bunch of people showing up with their own guns, except for a gun show. You could probably have an opportunity to go shoot. So if people haven't done that though, and I always like throw my experience, because most of my friends have a very similar experience to mine. We grew up with them. We all talk about them. But like, when's the last time some of my friends shot a 25 auto? I don't know, maybe 1990. You know what I mean? Like a long time ago, because we just don't do that stuff all the time. But somebody today who just got into guns 2 years ago, and owns one or two. Yeah, I mean, if you just haven't shot a lot, then maybe 9mm or maybe 40 is really snappy compared to 9mm. But once you've shot a 10 and a 41 and a 40 and whatever, like list off calibers for an hour, then 40 isn't no big. It's not that different, or the difference isn't that big an extreme that you need to calculate purchases and shit based off of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to how much is practice ammo, how much time you willing to spend with it, how much are bags, and that's all right. To me, as I'm listening, because I was watching a video from ARFCon, like those guys, meet them and hang out in the media room every now and again, a shot show with them. They putting out this thing, and they were just talking about the new Smith and Wesson Model 19, 357 Magnum and 38, and they were like, "Yeah, so these are coming back. Younger generation is enjoying wheel guns now because things go in phases as always." But they were talking about, yeah, there wasn't that 357 Magnum power available in the semi-automatics, and I'm like, 357 SIG was a thing. Everybody goofed on it, poo-pooed it, but it was developed for that 125 grain pill to equal the, okay, here's a term from back in the day, the man-stopping 125 357 Magnum round.
Mm-hmm.
It had like a 96% one-shot stop rate. And it was like, so they developed a semi-automatic. It was a neck down 40, right? Was it 357 SIG, a neck down 40 or a neck down 10?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The brass that they
I think
use.
it's a 40.
I think it's a 40 because the other one is 9mm Dillon, I think, is a neck down 10.
And it all matters about how thick the brass is or something, right?
Yep, that's what it came down to. But anyway, the 357 SIG was developed. Not fire marshals, wouldn't it be? Air marshals and the Secret Service developed that, and that was a thing. And then it was just rare. It was more expensive than 40. 40 was doing a good job for about probably over half law enforcement in the country was using 40, if not more. So 40, because of what do you call it when you put out a lot of a product? It keeps slipping me. It was just cheaper because so many of those rounds were being produced that you go, I got kind of the same thing from this 40, so I don't need to get the 357 SIG. So it petered away and died out.
Well, and the neck is an issue. Like that is always going to be more tedious to reload and to deal with versus straight wall cartridge. Like I think straight wall is always going to win if it's anywhere near a dead race.
Yeah, definitely. And then it kind of petered off and disappeared. And then 40, of course, 40's dead, which I really love that attitude about 40 being dead. That makes it easier for me to pick up things like Glock, yeah, release trade in Glock 22s, 23s. What is it, 35? Because I really want to get one of those too.
Shortages since the olden days of
last one?
shortages? I don't even know when the last one is because I haven't bought ammo in for so long, so I might have missed one or two. But
Yeah.
I was just going to throw in there too that like nobody likes 40 until there's a shortage of anything, and then all of a sudden, either out of desperation or interest or curiosity or whatever, they buy a 40, and then if 100 people buy them, 60 get rid of them and 40 like it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's retarded. And it annoys the poop out of me. But hey, that's gonna happen. That's consumerism. But I'm like, if you're smart and you want to prepare instead of buying yet another 9mm, pick yourself up a release trade in 40, from Glock, from Smith, from hell, even they got SIG police trade in 40s. And you'll have a firearm and you can just slowly stack the ammo, wait on sales, wait on this, do things like that, and just build yourself up a little of that. So when stuff goes sideways with another whatever and legislation and nine becomes rare, you can still go to the range and shoot your 40 and go, yeah, I still got my 9 millimeter for whatever poop hits the fan or whatever, Jabberwocky or Tapperwocky or whatever the end of the world as we know it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Tequanaki.
yeah, whatever. Freaking Superman versus Batman bullshit that preppers love to talk about to justify their purchases. Um, Instead of building a circle of friends with veritable skills and actually having a community of people, yeah, just buy stuff. Be a loot drop for somebody more prepared. But having an extra caliber helps out in a lot of different ways. It also gives you something to trade or bargain with or whatever because it is what it is. I think it's great. Now, do I say go out and buy 45 Gap and 357 SIG? I think if you're interested in having something that's going to be a time capsule firearm and cartridge, I think it would be smart because nobody's looking for it now.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
wait until it becomes that collector's edition thing that, oh, they were all over the place and I didn't pick one up because I listened to idiots on the internet and I bought my 15th Glock clone. Yeah, pick that up if you think you'll be interested in having and just shoving it back in the damn safe. It can join the SKSs that your granddad had or your dad had, and it just sits there in stock configuration. And then it breaks out, and everybody goes, "Man, where did you get one of those?" Like a Spider-Man #1 that's set in the back of a kid's closet, and now it's worth $25,000. Nobody read it, and he didn't hype it up. They just found it when he was cleaning out his freaking closet. Same. That Glock 45 could be something that paid for something else in the future if you just had it in the closet. Hey, is that a Glock 45 in the original box? I mean, a Glock 45 Gap in the original box? Yeah, that's pretty cool. One of these went for yada yada at an auction. That could happen. I think those would be the only Glocks worth something, not this new stuff.
That's
Oh, another
interesting.
It's
another one of my predictions came true, by the way. The softball easy assignment thing of every polymer striker fired gun that comes out. Is this the Glock killer? Is this the Glock killer? My prediction was always if anybody killed Glock, it'll have to be Glock. Hey, they just killed off their whole product line
Yeah,
from
there you
one
go.
to five. Man, I turned out to be right again. This is crazy.
It's true though.
Yeah.
They did not it off in a month or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, wow, because I've said it over and over, and you go back. I was like, the only people that kill Glock is Glock. Glock just killed everything from 1 through 5 in one freaking move. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's gone. Um, and me personally, if you're thinking about collector item Glocks, I think this new V series is going to be the collector item because they got the Gen 6 coming out at shot supposedly. So this particular series of guns that are coming out right now are supposed to be just a was it gap fill gap, stopgap. That's it. These are only supposed to be a stopgap between generations. So these might actually be the guns that you want to collect. I don't believe in buying them for that,
But there's
but
like only going to be a few produced. You mean like limited number
well,
because it just won't exist that long.
yeah. I mean, if they do stuff like it, right? I don't think they'll be making them in November or next year. I
Interesting.
mean, none of them are optic cut. Now, I believe truthfully, if you want to have something for again collector, as in you want to hold it, not for money. You know what I mean? Not as a investment, but just as a collector. This might be the thing. Maybe if you want to do something for investment, buy gold or silver, man. Don't buy guns.
I don't know. Like what
Uh,
were we talking about before? And like the only way to really have a gun as an investment is to buy it, like look at it at the shop, make sure what it is, buy it, close it, and just put it away, and like never even look at it again.
well, look at this, man, because I looked it up because I was going to actually say this during a live, and I've waited so long. It's not the price of a Glock in 1985, Gen 1 Glock 17 was $600. To buy a Gen 1 Glock 17 now online is $600. Now that $600 worth is different, but it's still $600.
No,
If
it's
you would have
actually worth
purchased,
less now. That
yeah,
$600 in value is worth less now. Yeah.
but if you would have bought $600 worth of gold in 1985, you see what I'm saying?
Oh no, I don't disagree that that's a. You're right. I'm just
So,
saying that there is investment in guns for some
mhm,
guns because you're saying a $600 Glock Gen 1. That's not the new in a box, never been touched. I'm going to open it for the first time out of the plastic Gen 1. Now
100%.
that one's worth $1,200 or $1,800 or
Yeah,
something.
but
So
it's not
that's
going to
all
be.
I'm saying. But nobody does that. I
Yeah.
met a guy. I know people that do this, but very few people do this. The only time it's happened, like it has happened to me. I do actually. I can think of one. I
Hmm.
might still even have it. Like I won a gun one time that I didn't want. So I looked at it and I'm like, oh, thank you. I was trying to be nice, like thank you, but then I didn't want it, so I just put it in. I left it in the box, put it in the safe, and then like maybe one day I'll trade it or something. But I always forgot because it's not that valuable a gun. So like that's the kind of thing where unless you get something like that, or maybe you buy it for hunting season, something happens, you break your leg. Next year, you go to a different caliber, you forget you buy that one, you never even put a scope on it or nothing, so you never took it out of the box. Like that must happen. I mean, they're
Hmm.
just guns. They're not like they're cars or
Yeah.
something where we can't remember them or something. But what I mean, we forget guns all the time once you have a couple of them. But all I'm saying is that unless you're really doing it with that intent, like where you buy it, you close it, you never look at it again. Like maybe your kids will look at it whenever they're selling it. That's how a gun gets valuable. But as soon as you touch it, fiddle with it, it's not valuable anymore. You lose anything from the box, it's not valuable anymore. You start to bend some of the boxes on some of these guns, especially like a Glock, where it's like
Hmm.
you're saying, like you're really not that good a chance you're going to make a valuable version of one. Like it has to be ultimately new in box. Like it can't be like, oh, I only use this for a couple of weeks. Like nope, that then it's more like that $600 one again. But anyway, that
So,
said,
yeah.
it is possible to put some money aside, and like you're saying, to pick a gun to do that with, and not your like typical Smith, Ruger, Glock, Smith, Sig, anything like, but instead the ones that are the dead end models or the weird brands and stuff that you're also banking in the future giving a shit about them because they're probably not a practical gun anymore.
Hmm.
Maybe a
Like,
bolt action would still be practical, but very few people are interested in a mint bolt action gun because there's so many of them.
for to me, if you're going to collect firearms as investment pieces, it would have to be firearms from custom houses. I think that would be a smooth, you know what I mean? Like a Ted Yost, Clark something from somebody that's a gunsmith that's making them in the gunsmith guild or
Mm,
the pistol guild. Those would be things that you buy and it's worth, again, from actual custom, not semi-custom, not you bought a Les Bear because I'm sorry. They hold on to they fetch higher prices, but when it comes to gun stores, you're gonna get half of what you paid for that sucker.
right, where
You know
there's
what
a
I mean?
true artist hand on it, where there can only
Yeah,
be 1,000 on the planet at all at ever. And yeah,
yeah,
when you're owning one of a very scarce pool, yeah, I could see that. At least
yeah. There's
that
a
way more
difference.
potential. But then again, you're still, it's like having a anything you got a risk compared to gold or something. It's a risk of like somebody giving a shit in the future about that
Eh,
anymore.
those things are only worth something to people who are willing to pay that price for it. If I'm looking for eggs in the Jabberwocky time, I know what you mean. In Jabberwocky times, and there's no electricity, and you go, I don't have eggs, but I have this bar of gold. Well, I'm selling this for eggs. You know what I mean? I need eggs. If you give me 12 eggs, you can have this thing you need. Yeah, but this bar of gold is worth a lot more. Not to me. I'm looking for 12 eggs. You can take that brick with you. And I mean, it's just true. It's like it's only worth something to people that it's worth something. If you don't tell time, why do you care about a Rolex? It's like I'm a farmer in the 1700s. I don't care what time it is. I'm working from sun up to sundown.
Well, I
It's
saw a
pretty
new
great.
thing just earlier. I forgot where I seen it. Must have seen it on YouTube, probably. Maybe it was somewhere else. But in the olden days, before there was clocks, even they would take a thing of water with a little whatever you call like a drip coming out of it, an intentional drip coming out, and as that drip would fill another like vessel of water, a thing floating in there would rise right as the water level rose, and that's how they would measure the time throughout a day. They'd have like 24, let's say 24 hours worth of water in there. And then at the end of the day, they take the water from the bottom one and pour it back in the top one. And the stick would start at the bottom and start up again. So if you ever get stuck in the whatever future wastelands, you can always
Hmm.
make a clock out of like 2 buckets of water in the right size hole.
Yeah, sure.
There you
Then I
go.
can know when I can be late for my Zoom meeting in that
Yeah,
wasteland.
exactly. Like, hey, I got an appointment at 4 and it's almost 4:30. Start beating on drums or signal fires or whatever else. Maybe signal
Yeah.
mirrors.
Hokum, pay attention. Meeting start already and you missed half of it. You can't relay it because you missed half of it because you didn't pay attention. Uh, it is cool to know stuff though, and how to build stuff and how to make analog whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, knowledge is never. Excuse me. Knowledge usually isn't a bad thing. Had to coach that a little bit because sometimes knowing too much isn't
Knowledge
helpful.
is important for sure, but then analytics can be right. The use of that knowledge
Hmm.
inappropriately or to like exhaustively or whatever, or sparingly even, like that's where you have to be able to apply the knowledge well.
Uh, did he ask another question? I think
Oh yeah,
so.
we have some other questions up here.
Okay, yeah.
Best
So,
we had a real one, another gun one. What company has the best customer service? We kind of addressed it before, but I don't know if we like focused
look,
on it.
I can talk about what I use because I know them. High Point has awesome customer service because I've used it. And I know the people. Understand, I know these people personally, but I don't think they help me out because they know me personally. Because before that, the High Point comes with a lifetime guarantee, lifetime warranty on their product, whether you're the first owner or the 50th owner. All they ask for is the serial number on the firearm and your address. That's it. Like for recoil spring, made a phone call, they sent it to me. Done. So I think that's great, and they were fast with it. Who else? I haven't used anyone else's. So when it comes to customer service, I don't know anyone else's. So this is mine from personal experience. Again, other people have complained about Smith and Wesson's customer service, and Taurus customer service used to be notoriously bad because everything had to be sent to Brazil, and they were
Well,
talking
I would say it was slow. It was like they would fix guns and they were nice about it, and
about. Okay,
they would never
uh,
complain about it. They would do it
it
like
was it
always.
was
It's just it would
it
take forever.
Yeah, it would take forever, and they were talking about a 3-month turnaround time was getting it quickly. But now, since they're in Florida, they're based out of Florida, right? And they got a new CEO that's American-based CEO. Uh, they understand that that customer service and that turnaround time is way more important, so it's been cut way down significantly. Uh, so that's the story I got on them. Like they have improved significantly. And you're right, it was the time frame, not the quality. But quality of guns are another thing. I think they've stepped up the game because Taurus have gone through some things in a different like corporate outlook. Because people forget at one time Smith and Wesson went to Taurus to help Smith and Wesson out when it came to building stuff. Um, and Taurus also was a Beretta plant. Like they bought the Beretta plant, so they kind of know what they're doing when it comes to making some of this stuff. And people love to like overwhelmingly poo-poo them. I think Taurus is one of the companies on the come up, but I don't know. I mean, like you're doing good with some of their products lately in the last 3 to 4 years, and I really like what they're doing with their handgun line. But that's who I know.
Taurus is odd. They're unique because think of that curve, whatever it was, where they made the frame curve.
Yeah,
Like
the
nobody's
curve.
gonna do that. And
And
then
what was the other one? The clear one.
was there a clear one? I would have bought a clear one.
They
I think.
they
No,
did the
remember?
revolver, the minimalist, tiny
Oh no,
ass.
that's right. That's true. They had a clear panel on the side of a revolver that was kind of neat.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Look, nothing's wrong with that. And again, I didn't have the money because I lived in Jersey. Because you had to get the pistol purchase permit, and that's months later. Like, I really wish I'd lived in the state because I'd have a different set of firearms if I lived in the state. You could just go in the store and buy one.
Yeah, when I
Then
think about people with like collections of like 50, 30, whatever guns, it's because you live somewhere where, yeah, exactly. You get like a whim and you got $200 and you have another gun.
yeah, that doesn't happen here unless you keep pistol purchase permits. Like, yeah, I got 3 of them active right now, and as soon as they're up, I got to go pay another $50 a piece to just have $150 sitting around for 3 months, and you might be able to get an extension. Depends on your township.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure there's people like that. I mean, I've definitely lived a
yeah, they
life
are.
of, like I like buying guns, and it was, if I had money, I was buying guns, and I had good jobs, so I bought guns. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going hunting or anything. It was like, I just want another gun. Oh, that gun's cool. I want that gun. And then you start again, like looking at them, paying attention to them, cleaning them, taking them apart. I didn't take everything apart, but cleaning it, disassembling it, type of thing. You start to understand the mechanisms and appreciate the different mechanisms. So, and this was again before the internet, really. You'd be at a gun show and you've got 3 revolvers, and now you just discovered a revolver that costs $200 that's different than your revolvers, and it's inherently different. There's things about it that are different. You would buy that, and I don't know if people still do that kind of stuff today, but that's how you acquire a collection of a bunch of different guns. They're not necessarily that you need them; it's just that you can afford them, that you can appreciate them. You take them to the range and shoot them or whatever, maybe,
So
but it's
speaking
mostly
of,
just fiddling with them and kind of comparing them. And because they're attainable, you acquire them instead of just fondling or admiring them from afar or whatever people do to expensive ass shit.
speaking of revolvers, Taurus owns Heritage, and Heritage Manufacturing has the Roscoe out, which is old school 38, like detective looking guns from back in the day, like for detective movies. It doesn't have the full underlug. Still has the gutter sight, and I think their MSRP is like 300 range. Those look cool. And yeah, if I lived in a place where I could walk in a store and only drop $300 on the fire, that would be awesome because I just like the look of it. And it's like, I think it's a 80, is it 85, 86 Taurus 80 something series. I mean, that's all it is, but they, retroed it. I think those are cool. I'd love to own that. And I like 3-inch revolvers because 2-inch revolvers are too small. The grips are usually too small for my hands. But the 3-inch revolvers are fit my hand better, and the longer sight radius helps me shoot them better, that I've noticed. So I kind of dig that. And again, I like their price point. What else? Who else has something out? Oh, Taylor and Company just put something out from Italy, a double action, a single action, well, it's double single revolver, modern revolver, and it's in that price point too. Looks a little weird. It's different. It's an Italian company making a modern revolver, and supposedly they did Cerakote on it, and the coating kind of crappy. And the MSRP was $1,000, and I don't think they moved it all, so they dropped them down to 300 and change. I think they're blowing them out. So if you're one of those gun people that wants to pick up something that they're probably either going to improve or drop altogether, that might be one of the guns. They just came out. A couple of people did reviews on them this week. One of them's a friend of mine. Actually, both the guys are friends of mine. You know Kurt and John from well, John's from Goals, Gun Owners of America.
Oh yeah. Full auto or full something reviews.
Oh yeah. So they just did a review on it, and I think that is something that's pretty cool for someone like me. I like introducing people to firearms, and sometimes, again, in a state like New Jersey, that price is more expensive than you see in the ad. Just to get the permission from the state, you have to have the firearms ID card. You have to have the pistol purchase permit. So you're already adding almost $200 to the price of that firearm. And if you're just getting into firearms and you don't have that budget, or you're not a dude that's in the guns, me trying to convince you that you should buy a Smith and Wesson for $1,000, when again it's going to cost you 1,200 to get that revolver, and you're not even in the guns, or you can buy that Roscoe or that Taurus for 3 to 500, and you're going to spend 5 to 700. That seems more applicable. You know what I'm saying? So when I see something like those firearms, it's not because people stop being poor. No, they're not in the guns, and you can't trick them into thinking I should spend Jersey prices. Again, add 200 to every gun you see on something they're not into. So it's like, yeah, how do I protect myself with a decent firearm? I want a decent long arm. I don't care if it's a shotgun or a rifle, and a decent handgun, and I don't want to spend over $1,000 on both combined. Okay, so I spend time thinking about things like that because those are real people in my real life, and those are questions I get asked. And when you go, all right, what's a solid semi-automatic or revolver or whatever? I need that in my mind. I like having. I don't need to have it. I like having that as the ability to give people options. All right, yeah, Stevens 320 or Maverick 88, good choices for shotguns. For handguns, used police trade-ins are really good, and that'll get you between 350. If you want something new, there are products out there that get you about that price point also. And then when it comes to AR-15s, again, we're in that zone of what are you looking for and how much work are you willing to put in for it. And that's why I like looking at those guns that other people won't ever bother looking at. I'm not looking at that. I don't care about that. Stop being poor. Yeah, okay, buddy. It's like, hey, did you buy a weed whacker? Yeah, I just picked up some at Home Depot. No, 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 no. You don't know all about the weed whacker empire? You're not really into your lawn care. You don't take it seriously. You don't compare Husqvarna versus Kumado or whatever the thing, Kuto. I forgot the name of it. It was you didn't go to NRA this year, right?
Oh no, I haven't been to NRA since like 11 or something.
They had a freaking tractor company on the floor, an NRA floor, and they had tractors and all kinds of like farm equipment. Kubota, yeah, that was it. And it was like, well, where's Radio Row? Like, where's Podcasters Row? Yeah, you go over there, you see where the giant ass tractor display is, and I'm talking about that took up a significant portion of the floor on that side. They had multiple lawn tractors, regular tractors, like farm equipment, and it was like, yeah, we're over in the corner on the left side, on the right side of that. It's like this is the first time I've seen that. But yeah, it's like, oh, you're not into that when you're not real serious about your lawn. Hell, you might as well just buy sheep and have them chew your grass, buddy. You
Well,
would
that's
get
why you are
goats.
serious about your lawn, probably.
Yeah,
All
if
right,
you if you
I gotta start wrapping up the show because I'm looking
yep.
up and it's about to rain. I gotta drag some junk inside before it gets rained on.
All right, man. Appreciate being on. There you go. Yeah, Kubota. Yeah. I was like, yeah, you're not serious about lawn care. You might as well just have animals chew your grass.
But
Loser.
when's the next diversity shoot?
Next diversity shoot is November 20th. It's already sold out. So we shoot in Lakewood. Yo, If you want to see something funny, go check out Simon Says Train on Instagram or Simon Says Train on Facebook, or the second is for everyone on Facebook. I just posted what I just thought was going to be a regular testimonial to my last diversity shoot, and these dudes turned it up to an 11. We were joking starting out because, of course, I joke about everything and everybody. And this friend groups happened to be two white guys, a guy from Bangladesh, and a guy from Pakistan. And they came in together, and I started, and well, they felt safe because I was making jokes about other stuff, and they started doing stuff. And by the end of the shoot, I asked them to do a testimonial, and I have the outtakes, and it's pretty much 40. It was like five different outtakes that I had to keep starting over because they kept joking, we kept laughing, and then we finally got the 1 minute and 5 second thing that's up right now. So go check that out, and I'm gonna try to put what else happened in something for tomorrow. The outtakes, and I'll probably do a little bit of voiceover to explain why it goes sideways so fast. But it's a fun event. We have a good time. We talk about advocacy. We, shoot guns. We have pizza, and we have really cool prizes. And I think a lot of people think you're going to be bored to death. Actually, that's one of the things they said. We thought it was going to be something like you guys are going to be reading laws to us, and we're going to be taking notes. And I'm like, nah. Nah. I mean, you can, and we have people there. And if you have questions, we'll answer them. And we have people that are actually experts there. But we're there to have a good time, get you to meet these people so you can have those conversations either at the event or after. We all give out contact information if you want it. Well, for social media and things like that, that you can actually converse with us, and we hang out after the events. So diversityshoot.com, great time if you're in Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania. Come on out. We host two events a month in New Jersey, around the state, and we'd love to see you there. We have a good time. We're trying to grow the firearms community, welcome all people, and get people to advocate regardless of where they're from, by donating money, by participating into a advocacy themselves. And the reason I go on podcasts like this is not only because it's fun, but so we can reach people all over the place and go, you don't only have to donate where you are, you can actually donate to us because we're doing the work. Again, diversityshoot.com. You can donate to one of the organizations that continually help me, CNJFO, because they're fighting fights. They're co-signing on to Supreme Court and court cases, and they help in funding these court cases that are not only fighting for our rights here in New Jersey, but around the country. So please get involved into a advocacy, and that's what I push, and that's what I try to educate people on. And we only have 3 more for the end of the year. We have another one at Gun for Hire coming up in December, and one at Union Hill Gun Club in Monroe, New Jersey, coming up in the first or second week of December. I got to get that actually on the schedule so you can see it online. But that's what we're doing. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me babble about this every week. Thanks, G-Webs.
In other words, I was out there moving my laundry. I got my laundry out there, and then I got a bunch of junk out there I got to move. But yeah, thank you for joining us each week, spending some time, and all the people that join us and ask questions. That's what it's all about. So we had a couple came in, and then I think we brought a couple in from last week. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back next week, I think. Right?
Peace.
Yeah.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!